Hi guys, what's going on, and welcome back to the Bristol Prepper channel. So today guys, you're not looking at my ugly mug, today you're looking at the table. And this is because today, as you saw by the title of the video, we're looking at carbon steel versus stainless steel. And we're going to talk a little bit about the qualities of each of them, maybe some some benefits and some disadvantages of each of them. And I'm not going to tell you why you should pick either one, you know, I've got both. But we're just going to give you some advice and some, you know, some thoughts on each one so you can make your own decision, you know. Because that's what, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, personal preference. Like anything in life, you know. It's like whether you choose an Audi or a BMW or, I don't know, anything like that, where you choose to play rugby or football. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about this. So, as you can see, I've got on the table a variety of fixed blades, and I've also got a couple of folders. And then at the top there, right at the top, I've got the Gerber Bear Grylls paracord knife. That's not in either one because I wasn't sure which side it was on, because it doesn't state it, and I didn't have time to quickly go online. I've been busy this morning, so I haven't had time to quickly go online and check that out. But drop that down in the comments if you know. So guys, first of all, before we get into some pros and cons, with your blades, or if you're choosing your first blade, or you have many blades, how do you differentiate between each one, and between either one? Between the how do you know whether it's carbon steel or stainless steel? Well, guys, 99% of the time, more often than not, your blade will say it on there, be it carbon steel or whatever it might be, you know. If it'll say stainless on there, or it will say carbon. I will show you an example. Let's pick up this one because it might be a bit easier. Now bear with me because, like I said before, I'm not normally the cameraman. Today I am, so to bear with me with the focus. I can actually get that focus. Yeah, it says stainless there, made in China, but 440 stainless. That's that one. And we also have a Mora, and that says the Mora stainless steel. And then just show you a folder. That's stainless. Bear with me with the camera, 2 seconds. As you can see there, oh, that's office supplies. Victorinox, you might be able to catch that. It does say stainless on there. Yeah guys, so as you can see, that's the stainless when it says stainless, and when it says high carbon, I'll find one that says it on there. Nope. Some knives don't say it, but like I said, more often than not, it will say on there what it is made from. Well, let's bring you in focus. And carbon steel. That was the Mora Bushcraft Black. Let's bring you another Mora. That is not shit on the blade, that is oil. Carbon, see carbon here? I'll show you one more. I'll show you the open L folder. Oops. Yeah, I'll show you the open L folder. Does this one say it? Oh no, this one doesn't say it. But yeah guys, so as you can see, I showed you what it looks like and how you differentiate. Like I said, 99% of the time it does say it, but I have got a few that don't say it. I'll bring you back in focus, otherwise you'll be looking like a man without his glasses on. I'll bring you back into focus. Whoa, and you're back down to earth. So, yeah, so we just showed you a little bit. I showed you a couple of knives that said stainless steel and a couple that said carbon, and that's how you normally differentiate. But as you can see here, I've got I have got a few that don't say it. Like for instance, the one I just showed you, that open L, it doesn't say it on there. Then also the Condor Bushlore, that doesn't say it on there. All that says is Condor and then El Salvador, where it's made. It doesn't say what it's made from. But I know for a fact that that one is made out of high carbon steel. I think it's 1075. Then the Gerber at the top, that doesn't say either. But I wasn't sure whether it was stainless or carbon. Yeah, so as you can see, we got some of the ones that do say it as well. And the BK7 is high carbon. I also know that the cold steel leatherneck tanto is high carbon steel. So guys, let's get into maybe looking at some of the benefits and disadvantages of each of them. So first off, guys, one of the big reasons, obviously, if you're buying a knife like this, I'm not talking about if you're buying it for kitchen use or everyday carry. I'm talking about the more survival knives and bushcraft knives. The reason you'd be buying them is for bushcraft and survival, so you'd like to know whether it can both strike a ferro rod. And to your knowledge, and which is great about both of them, they do both, stainless and carbon, both can strike a ferro rod. I know this, and this is tested and shown, because this one is a stainless steel blade and it comes with a ferro rod, so obviously that one can strike a ferro rod, and obviously through use I know that it can. Carbon steel, I use the Condor Bushlore, that is my most used knife upon the table, and I know for a fact that that one can strike a ferro rod. So, let's talk about some of them that can. So I have got a few on here that might struggle or might not chuck a spark as much as the others. For instance, the Gerber Bear Grylls paracord knife, and the BK7, and also the cold steel leather neck tanto, and that's because they've got a coating on them. And the only ones that have got that are kind of, what's called it, like they're not in this quota, is the Mora Bushcraft Black and the Condor Bushlore. I've sharpened the spine on that, so it can chuck a spark very well. And then I've also the Mora Bushcraft Black is just insanely good at chucking sparks. That's because the coating's a little bit different. But normally, guys, you're on your powder coatings and like your kind of painted over coatings, whatever you want to call them. They do stop you and hinder you when you're chucking a spark. And normally the powder coatings and stuff like that is with a high carbon steel blade. And we'll talk a little bit more about why they have coatings on later on. But yeah, normally, and as a general rule, the high carbon steel blades are the ones with the coatings. You do get some in stainless, but that's more for looks rather than anything else. So guys, let's talk about something else. So generally, let's talk about the high carbon steel blades first. Generally, the high carbon steel blades are a little bit more popular. And a little bit more easier to get hold of, and a little bit more readily available. You know, they just are. You know, it's just because of the main reason is because another point I've got is that they're cheaper, and that's normally why you see a little bit more of them, and there's more of them knocking around. Like Johnny, for instance, on my table I have more carbon steel blades than I do stainless, and that's kind of the general rule upon everybody. You know, you see more people with carbon steel blades, high carbon steel blades, than you do stainless. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, that's just a general rule, just because it's cheaper to make carbon steel as a rule. Now, all this stuff I'm coming out with, guys, is as a rule, you know, as a general rule of thumb. You know, obviously I know there's exceptions and I know there's different variants, but I'm talking as a general rule. So, yeah, so like I said, the high carbon steel blades are cheaper against the stainless. Another factor into this is that the high carbon steel blades, after use, and obviously while you're using them, you're going to want to sharpen the blades, and the high carbon steel blades are a lot easier to sharpen. They are yeah, just a lot easier. You know, they're a softer, they're just a little bit more softer, and they haven't got the alloys upon which the stainless has, so it makes them easier to sharpen because they're not as hard, and just a little bit more just easier to sharpen, easier to get a really good edge on, to get a sharp edge really quickly, and you don't have to take the time like you might do with the stainless steel blades. And like I said earlier, there's exceptions throughout. You know, there's high carbon steel blades that use certain high carbon steel that is a little bit harder to sharpen, and there's stainless steel blades that use extremely good stainless that are really easy to sharpen. But as a general rule of thumb, stainless steel is harder to sharpen than carbon steel. Now, one of the biggest downsides with carbon steel, which everybody knows, is that high carbon steel rusts a lot easier than stainless steel, and just stains more. You know, it's more susceptible to corrosion than stainless steel is. But that's why they call it stainless steel, because it stains less, not never stains steel. You know, this stuff still rusts. You know, and I got proof of that. I did keep this just for you guys, just for this video. I'll show you now. 2 seconds. Just put me notes down and I'll focus in for you. I did keep this just for you guys, just to show you, give you an example. I really don't know if you can make this out, but right on the tip of the blade, this blade is a bit grubby, but there is some rust starting and forming on the tip of the blade. And don't forget, this is a stainless steel blade. So it's not that you can chuck these in a river, in a saltwater river, and they'll never rust. It's just they take their corrosion resistance is a lot higher than the carbon steel blades, and that's because of the carbon element in the high carbon steel blades. Because they have high carbon in them, this is what makes them susceptible, more susceptible to the corrosion. And obviously there's different bits and pieces that go into some stainless steel blades that makes them higher corrosion resistance, but as a rule, this is the way it works. Yeah, so because they're more susceptible to corrosion, obviously this is why the stainless steel can be a benefit in wet weather conditions and underwater knives, you know, I don't know, canoeing knives and knives that are made and based around jobs that will be done in the wet. 99% of the time they'll be made out of stainless steel, because obviously a chance where they're going to be used in the snow, in the wet, in the rain, in the water, you know, white rafting or whatever. They'll be made out of that because they stain less, you know. Some high carbon steel blades, you can't take them anywhere. They're like kids. You take them out somewhere, if you leave them in the rain and a log too long, and you get them home, and you're only out for the day, and they'll come back, and you'll start have some signs of corrosion and rust on there. I know because I've done it, and I live in an awfully rainy country. I live in England, and England's just fucking ridiculous. It rains all the time. It's raining now. You know, it rains all the time. So this is one of the problems with high carbon steel blades. So let's look at some other ones. So let's talk a little bit about the stainless steel. So the stainless steel, like I said earlier, is a little bit higher in cost as a rule. None of these blades cost an awful lot on the table, but as a general rule, stainless steel as a metal and as acquiring it costs more than the carbon steel. And this is because stainless steel, as a rule, is a little bit harder to work with. You know, it's a little bit harder to heat treat when they're heat treating the blades. Just a general rule, is a little bit harder to work with than it is the carbon steel blades. Now this might be down to obviously how hard it is to work with, and also that we've been using carbon steel a lot longer than we're using stainless steel. Yeah, so the stainless steel holds an edge for a lot, can hold an edge for a lot longer because it is harder. And because it's a little bit harder, so it can hold that edge a lot longer, but it's harder to get an edge upon it. So you might take your little bullet, so just say this one here, high carbon steel, this is really rough, guys, and I guess, you know, I'm just saying it for example's sakes, but just say the high carbon steel blade, you have two of the same blades, and this one took you 10 strokes on a whetstone to get it sharp. This one may take 20 or 30 strokes to get it sharp. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot more work has to put into these to get a really good edge on it when you're using it. But once you have an edge, these things stay wicked sharp for a wicked amount of time. And this is one of the benefits. If you're using this in a wet weather condition, on maybe a trek or a mountain expedition, this is the sort of thing you want, because you don't have to stop in every 5 minutes to coat your blade and make sure it's oiled up and all really nice in that. You're looking after it like a kid. You want it to be rough and ready, not have to worry about it for a long period of time, and you can keep that edge on it and know that the edge is going to be good for a good amount of time without stopping and have to whip your stone out or your mobile maintenance kit. So there's so many things to think about when you're thinking about blades, when you're thinking about which ones to choose from. Sorry about that, guys, do apologise. I went back now. I had to answer the phone. The typical, innit? The phone didn't ring all day, and then as soon as you start filming, the phone rings. Anyway, I was talking about stainless steel blades, so and the advantages of them. So yeah, so when you're picking a blade, guys, it's all to do with where you live and your scenario and your what you're looking for, you know. Typically, normally I like to use a high carbon steel blade as much as I can, just because of the ease of use and the ease of sharpening and stuff like that. But generally in the winter times, I normally almost have to always use a stainless steel blade. I normally use the Mora in the middle, which is the Mora Companion heavy duty, but in the stainless steel. And I bought that purposely because I knew that I like to use the high carbon steel blades, and I like to use my Condor and my all my different knives, but the wet weather in England is a nightmare. So I tend to, if it's raining and I go out and it's raining, I use these. And just because the sheath is so good, because it's a plastic sheath, it does not absorb water, so I don't have to worry about that and put it in a wet leather sheath, which is something you have to watch out for with carbon steel blades. I've had it done with the Condor bush loader. I didn't even know my leather sheath for my Condor bush loader was not even wet. It was like, it must have been damp. I didn't even feel it. But I just put it in the sheath. I shouldn't have, but I put it in the sheath, left it overnight, took it out, and all I had was a full rust knife. You know, completely covered in rust, the whole thing. The handles, the scales, the pins, everything. So I had to strip it right back. But, not a problem, I sorted it out. But that's the sort of thing that can happen with a leather sheath and getting it wet, so you've got to watch out for that. So that's why I use a stainless steel blade in the winter times normally. If it's not raining, obviously, and it's just cold, then I'll use my high carbon. This is why, if it was me and I was giving a recommendation for somebody and they're looking at their first blade and they don't know which sort of steel to go with, a stainless steel or a high carbon steel, I'd recommend a high carbon steel. Now I know there's a little bit more maintenance with these, and you've got to sharpen it more often to keep that edge, and you've also got to obviously cover it in oil and give it a nice little coating of oil. I use mineral oil. I order off Amazon. It's not cheap, but I know it's good stuff and I can use it to prepare food with, and I know it's not going to damage me. Some people use olive oil. Just the only trouble using olive oil, if you don't use your blade and then you leave olive oil put in your cupboard overnight, or not overnight, for a long period of time, the olive oil can go a bit manky, but it is always an accessible option if you've got nothing else. Yeah, so like I was saying, the carbon steel blades would be better, I think, for a first person's knife. So if you're going to go with a knife, just say you pick the more classic number 1, or whatever it is, number 7, I can't remember which one it was, but this one, the more classic, which is an extremely good knife for the money. I think it's like 10 quid or under 10 quid or just over 10 quid. Amazing knife for the money. I cannot recommend that knife more. That knife is also used by Dave Canterbury from the Pathfinder school in America, and he uses that blade as a neck knife, and he's used that in multiple videos and stuff like that. I haven't seen him use it so much nowadays, but he has used it, and has used it a lot and for a long period of time. He's had his years. So it just shows the longevity of how good a blade they are. Anyway, I'm rattling on, it's not a review of the knife, but I'm just saying that if you just say you had that knife as your first blade, you could learn how to maintain a blade. This would, having a high carbon steel blade as your first knife would teach you how to maintain a blade, how to look after it, how to sharpen a blade, because you'd have to sharpen it more often, which means you got better at sharpening because you'll have to do it. Because at the end of the day, guys, nobody's born amazing at using freehand sharpening stones. You're not born with it, it's just doing it, you know, it's just doing it. Like by the 30th time of sharpening with a stone, eventually something will click and you'll be able to do it like a natural. So that's why I recommend the high carbon steel blades to people for their first knife, just because it takes that little bit more work and that little bit more maintenance, which teaches you a good ethic for the rest of your knife life. You know, for the rest of the time you have knives, whether it be stainless steel, carbon steel, and all the super steels in between, it teaches you good ethic and good maintenance qualities, which you carry on throughout your knife life. For me now, I still coat all my blades with exactly the same coating. I do not put any less, or do not coat my stainless. I still coat them and I look after them to the same standard, just because I've got that work ethic from the high carbon steel blades. So I recommend that, you know. And it really teaches you all about the knives and what to do, and then you get to know the steels and stuff like that. So I definitely recommend for a first steel, a first knife, definitely go with a high carbon steel knife. Yeah, guys. So when you're looking at knives, do not think that I'm saying that all the stainless steel blades are, I don't know, 50 quid or above. You can definitely buy blades. This blade here is a Elk Ridge 9-inch hunting knife. This one here, and that one only cost me £9, and that one is a 440 stainless steel. But I normally find with some of the 440Cs, if the knife's made in China, then it's normally a really shit 440C. So this is not an amazing steel, but it was just a cheap blade and I bought it just to have a look at it, you know, give it a review and see what it's like. You can normally, sometimes you find yourself little gems, and I do consider that to be a nice little gem. It is a bit of a bastard to sharpen, but once I've got it sharp, it does stay wicked sharp for a really long amount of time. So don't assume, like I'm saying, that all the stainless steel blades are amazingly expensive. They're not. You can normally find the same sort of price, but I'm saying as a general rule, stainless is more expensive to buy. So if you buying a high-end knife, most of the time, more often than not, the stainless steel version might be a little bit more expensive, just because it's a little bit harder to heat treat, a little bit harder to work with, like I said earlier. So guys, I don't want to rattle on no longer. I've rattled on way enough. You've hopefully you've got kind of the gist of what I'm talking about, and us comparing the stainless steel blades against the high carbon steel blades. I'm not saying that one's better than the other. I just really think that they all have their place in the bushcraft and survival society. I think they all have their place. If somebody lives in a more warm temperature environment, then high carbon steel blades will be more suited to them, you know, because they haven't. Why go with the benefit of the rusting less in the stainless steel? Why go with that benefit and put yourself through with you having to sharpen it more often? If you don't need that stain less, you know, and that corrosion resistance, you can just go with a high carbon steel blade and eat your heart out, you know. But then somebody in a more wet weather environment, like England, like where I live now in England, in the UK, I'd recommend a stainless steel blade, or like I do, have one of each. I have a summer blade and a winter blade. But then, if you can only afford one, I would recommend, for an English person or somebody who lives in the same sort of wet, damp conditions that England lives in, like even in the summer, in the morning, it's damp, you know, it's always fucking wet here. It's a nightmare. So, I would recommend though, for a first knife, if you're English or UK or somebody with the same amount of rain that we do, I would recommend a stainless steel blade for your first blade. This is the only time I'd really recommend a stainless steel blade for your first blade, just because of the wet weather conditions, and you wouldn't, because if that's totally covered in rust, if it's really bad and you've left it for like a couple of weeks and it's fully covered in rust, that can be one hell of a job to get it off. That is no easy task at all. So that's the only time I really recommend a full stainless steel blade to somebody for first knife, if they're in severe wet weather conditions like I'm always in, you know, it's always fucking raining or wet or damp or whatever. Yeah, guys, so like I said, I've rattled on way long enough. Hopefully you've got the gist of this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you've maybe learnt a little bit, and I've taught you a little bit about stainless steel blades and high carbon steel blades. I've definitely enjoyed it. It's something a little bit different for you guys, you know. You're not looking at my ugly mug. You're looking at the table with all the knives there, you know. These guys are definitely a lot more pretty than I am. Otherwise, guys, that is it for today's video. So please, guys, don't be afraid and don't be frightened. Slam all your thoughts down beneath in the comments. Please tell me what you prefer, high carbon steel or stainless steel, or if you have one of each, you know. Slam it down beneath and tell me what you think about these blades. Also, guys, don't be frightened. If you've enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and also hit that subscribe button and follow me on the channel. I have lots more tutorials and stuff like that on my channel. I have reviews and all different bits and pieces, so please get involved if you're not already, guys. But that's it. So also, if you've got 5 minutes, go in the description and check out my link for Facebook, and on that link you'll see the Bristol Prepper Facebook page, and then that's the best place to be if you want to see all the behind the scenes pictures and shit like that, and you can see a little bit more of me on there, and you can follow me on there. Otherwise, that's it for today. So as always, stay prepared, and I'll catch you guys another day, another way.